Hello Slimers, today we're going to talk about Celeste is one of the most satisfying, gorgeous, amazingest and bloody annoyingest games I've ever played. It's simultaneously got some of the best platforming and best storytelling that has ever entered my cornholes, and is leagues ahead of 99.9% of other games in terms of thematic clarity. In my experience, you usually either get a compelling, emotionally driven narrative or fun, challenging gameplay, but with Celeste you get both in spades, which is extremely rare. It's also rare for someone to finish this game, because newsflash, it's hard as balls. The difficulty curve isn't unreasonable or anything, but I've died this many times on my third playthrough and I'm meant to be good at the game. There are several screens whose sole purpose is just to fuck with you. You know it's good because everyone who's finished it legit is insane. But before I get into this, I have to warn you that we're dealing with full spoilers going ahead, so I have a disclaimer to add. You should play Celeste. Seriously, it's a very reasonable price, and even if it was double the price and you literally have no money, it would still be worth it. Go to a loan shark or something. Yes, this game is so good, it's worth going into crippling debt over. Play this game!
I'm just gonna have to turn this opportunity down.
No, you're just gonna have to turn this opportunity yes.
We open up to a very relaxing scene on some nondescript path on a trail. The music is calming, there's a great atmosphere, and you have no idea what's ahead of you. It's also neat that you can go back a screen and see your car, almost like you have the choice to leave this place if you want to. But we know that we can't because, there'd be no game. But also because our main character Madeline knows she also can't. She's on a mission with a mental, not physical goal. The way she speaks about shows that she's been building up to the climb for a long time, and now that she's finally doing it, there's no choice but to go through with it. We'll see later that there's an incredible fusion between Madeline's mental state and gameplay that I haven't seen in a long time, and this is a little hint at that. Anyway, once we explore a little bit and familiarise ourselves with the controls, we meet just one of the loveliest characters. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I was being sarcastic. There's no way we'll ever care about her. Overall, this is a great prologue that introduces the basics of the mechanics of the game, and also all the characters, and also manages to have the exaggerated swagger of a black teen? I don't know where I was going with this. Chapter 1 is a classic example of a video game just being good. We get a really simple and easy to understand introduction to the physics-based platforming system. Well, not really physics-based, more physics-adjacent. For example, on this platform, if you jump either during its movement or at the end of its movement, you fly into the spikes and die. That makes sense. It's something that's intuitively understandable. But if you jump just a small second after the platform stops, the momentum is maintained even though it seems like it shouldn't be. Wow, 0 out of 10 worst game of all time, am I right? So the point of this vague gesture towards physics instead of actual physics is for, fun. It would be really annoying if you didn't get the jump you needed if you pressed the button one frame after the platform stopped moving. So although it seems a bit strange at first, Chapter 1 gives you plenty of opportunities to learn, and considering death is not a big deal whatsoever, it definitely isn't unfair. We also get to understand the basics of how the game deals with exploration, and we get a few delicious, delicious strawberries. Strawberries are an optional collectible that you can brag about to your friends at gaming conventions, and they're just an extra that I can't avoid. Oh, look, a strawberry. Okay, fine, I'll fucking get it. Along with this enticing sense of completion, we also get some strawberries that we just don't know how to get yet. And some of the time they're in places that we keep coming back to as we explore, reminding us every time about our failures and inabilities to get even the simplest That's okay, because there are certain other secrets in the level that you almost certainly won't find your first time through, so there's more than enough stuff to warrant going through each level multiple times. In this chapter we also get to meet Theo, who may have some questionable dialogue in his first encounter. YOLO! But as we see him more, he becomes extremely likeable and he serves the important purpose of being a healthy counterpart to Madeline's anxieties and insecurities, while simultaneously not being unrealistically healthy. In fact, I like this character so much, I decided to cosplay as him. Wait, no! How could I have thought this would be a good idea? Anyways, you get to the top of the level and see a plaque, and then you sit down by the campfire. I'm gonna stop listing the chapters from now on, this is just getting confusing. Spoiler alert, the sequel. This whole chapter takes place inside Madeline's head, so this part of the video should really be called The first thing you might notice is that the plaque is now scrambled garbage, which in itself is a clue you're in a dream. Then, as we make our way onwards, we see these strange huge blocks we can't interact with yet. Oh, and then look, it's a strawberry. You might walk around here for a while without progressing, because what you need to do is break a specific block in the bottom right. This teaches you that there might be more than meets the eye in levels, and you could always scan the layout more thoroughly in the levels you've already completed. This is a pretty common tactic in games to have the player unlock some kind of secret in order to progress, which inspires them to search for more secrets, and the way this is done in Celeste is just subtle enough that the player won't even know it's happening. Now we get to the most interesting part of the chapter, which is the melting of gameplay and story into a blob. We enter a room with a mirror, and as we walk past it we see a strange dark version of ourselves. This is a toxic, manipulative, destructive version of Madeline, or rather is the manifestation of the worst aspects Madeline sees in herself, and at first she tries to bury what she doesn't want to confront, breaking the mirror and unlocking those weird boxes that are her means of escape. This not only unlocks a whole new side to the level you've been exploring, but also looks pretty neat. You could also look at this as Madeline, like, trying to distract herself from the side of herself she doesn't like with fancy new tricks or whatever, but that's like pretentious as fuck. Anyway, predictably, this burying of problems doesn't work, just like it doesn't in real life. And later on in the level we get the second confrontation, which doesn't go very well. And then we get one of the most genius decisions in all of gaming. Evil Madeline starts following your exact movements with a threatening purple aura and kills you if she touches you. Eventually, more and more copies of her start to chase you, outnumbering and overwhelming you. This on its own is not wholly unique. It's kind of a trope in platformers to have some kind of exact copy of you chase you down, to the point where this section could easily be considered an homage to Super Mario Galaxy. But the genius part is how this connects to the story and the characters. Madeline is actively trying to avoid and outrun the side of herself she hates, the side of herself that literally kills her if she gets too close. And this struggle becomes such a mental challenge that the self-hatred she feels starts to multiply and become too much to handle, setting up the stage for her anxiety that, while was present before this point, gets dragged into focus from this point onwards. This gives us a clear window into the mind of our main character purely through gameplay. Well, that was fucking dumb. Let's talk about something a bit more fun. The music in Celeste is bloody incredible. This whole video could have just been an extended montage of all the songs with people dancing to them. So I guess, sorry for wasting your time. But I just wanted to compartmentalize my adoration for the soundtrack of this game to one segment, because this music deserves to be exposed to my enormous fan base. Oh shit. Anyway, enjoy. The emotional tone the music elicits is always perfect for whatever we should feel while playing. If you need motivation, the music gets you pumped. If you need to reflect on how far you've come, the music gives you that.
Huh. Really makes you think.
Good enough. Alright. And if you need to feel relaxed, the music effortlessly snaps into that mode for the necessary time before putting you back into the action. The music is also incredibly adaptive, shifting and distorting depending on the environment. If you go underwater, the music muffles and gets tonally deeper. If you're flying through the air, electrifying stings play along with the music to give the sense of freedom. And when you finally complete the level and get to the beautiful screens at the end, you start crying. There's even a cute 8-bit version of the game hidden in a level that nearly 85% of players completely miss, that has unique mixes of all the themes but in 8-bit style, which also adapts to what screen you're on just like the main game does. This kind of thing is just so great for motivating the player to find everything the game has to offer. Oh yeah, speaking of motivation, it's very important for a difficult game to come up with reasons why you should keep playing it if it's such a challenge. Some games manage it perfectly, others not so much. Celeste is definitely the former. Not only does death mean basically nothing because you're thrown back into the action less than a second later, but also for several other reasons listed here. We'll go through them one by one. For me personally, one of the biggest motivators is just seeing what's going to happen next with the characters. I love all the conversations between us and Theo, or the old lady, I forgot her name, and the arc between the two versions of Madeline is super engaging and is always represented perfectly through gameplay. Sometimes you get an angry fight leading to a crazy hotel owner chasing you down, don't ask. And other times you get an awesome boss fight. Simply looking forward to what's going to happen next is more than enough to keep me going.
Even when this one fucking room took me 30 minutes and I almost did it, but then I made the dumbest mistake at the very end and now I gotta do it all again, oh my god.
Every level has some kind of twist that keeps things interesting throughout, and one of the genius things this game does is somehow keep every chapter just as interesting as the one before. Flying platforms, dash voids, shadow chasers, timed death blocks, moving springs, intervaled boss charges, dashing orbs, forceful wind, springy clouds, segmented strawberries, time-coloured blocks, set path grabby blocks, partially controllable set path grabby blocks, dash refillers, crumbling paths, super fast dash blocks, infinite distance dashes, dark rooms with light, keys that unlock certain doors, flying fish monsters, throwable Theos, flight feathers, monster dash blocks, exploding balls, shooting lasers, bounceable snowballs, evil Madeline boosters, pillars and buttons, grabbable wall grinders, floating fireballs, fire blocks, floating ice balls, ice blocks, slippery ice walls, fire to ice switches, rising lava, falling ice, exploding fish, floating jellyfish, electric fuses, and bird boosters. Jesus Christ. There's a more abstract goal at almost every step of the story that, while remaining pretty vague, are instantly relatable. For example, the mountain is not only a symbolically powerful image, but but is also the kind of magnificent, huge, far-off goal that a lot of us can relate to. The importance of the mountain is highlighted by its own colour and any dialogue choices, almost giving it the same kind of signifier as one of the characters, whose names are also in their own colour. The mountain is this ancient ruins of Ozymandias monster who may remain out of your thoughts for the majority of playtime, but will always eventually come back and remind you of its scale and beauty in shockingly profound ways. There's this secret in Chapter 2 where if you take a side path up some screens you reach a poem written in a dusty old book. An apparition, not of this world but because of it, lurking just out of frame. Awake, my heart is a fortress. In dreams I am vulnerable. There's something about the phrasing of this that's really powerful to me. It's almost scary, like whoever wrote it is warning you that they are lurking just out of sight, but sad at the same time. The subject seems mournful at the state of their being. You can think this represents whatever you want to, but I think it's talking about the mountain, an unknown magical entity that is incredibly daunting but also emotionally driven in its own gargantuan way. Moments like these are what truly make Celeste special, and it just goes to show how pretentious I am. Oh, that's pretty bad. I should do another take there. For many people, myself included, just having more challenge to look forward to is enough. The fact that some people have beaten the entire game plus all extra content deathless is proof enough of that. Every time I complete a particularly hard screen, it causes gamer heroin to flow through my veins and gets me just as pumped for the next one. In a sense, I'm addicted to gamer heroin. And it's not a woefully unfair, unrewarding challenge either. In a design sense, it's easy to put 100 pixel perfect jumps in a row with you starting over at jump 1 every time you die. Obviously that's very difficult, but also obviously it's not in the slightest bit fun. So you gotta give the player a certain sense of progression even if they die. Yeah, you died, but now you know you have to avoid the exploding balls or they'll stop you from getting the second flight feather you need to win. Speaking of exploding balls, I've been recording for a long time and I really need the bathroom. 1 minute. After several hella difficult levels,
David, kick that table!
one of the best arcs in all of anime, and 5 full heads of hair later, we finally reached the final chapter and the climax of the story. In Chapter 6, we fell from near the summit all the way back down to the bottom, so Chapter 7 works as a microcosm of the entire game. It's also by far the longest chapter, so the game felt it was necessary to prepare you and also solidify the importance of Madeline finally having the ability to get to the top. It does this by giving you a perspective of the mountain from Madeline's perspective, which would ordinarily be daunting, but now the music is giving us confidence and motivation instead of despondency. It's time to conquer the mountain. After an hour-long battle through all of the previous area's obstacles, but with a much higher difficulty, it genuinely feels like we've traversed a lot of space. At regular intervals, we get rocketed through the air by our counterpart.
Wait, can you just do this from the base?
And we also get regular updates of how high we are, so after a little while it feels like we've covered just as much ground as the other areas put together. Then we get to what feels like very near to the top, with checkpoints counting down our progress and creating a great sense of anticipation. Then I definitely don't die on the easiest final checkpoint. Then we made it. Wow, I can't believe it's finally over. Wait a second. No, it's not. I haven't even got half the Steam achievements. What? Have I still got more to do? Yes, there is loads more to do. So there is so much endgame content in this game that Chapter 7, despite being the end of the story, might as well be considered the mid-game. The first thing you might notice is that there are hidden tapes in every level that unlock an even harder version of that level for you to scream at. But don't worry, because the rooms you unlock the tapes in are pretty hard themselves. So I guess if you do a pretty hard room, that means you're qualified to do 20 universe level death chambers. In all seriousness though, if you're in this far, the challenge is going to be the primary motivator to keep you going in order to show your gamer cred. You also get to see some unique dialogue and stuff like that on certain B-sides, and once you complete a B-side level, you collect a heart that gives you the best sound effect ever.
Oh yeah.
But we are still not close to done. After you complete enough B-sides, you unlock the mythical Chapter 8, which is a, surprise surprise, difficult journey into the heart of the mountain. If you try to do Chapter 8 before the B-sides, you're greeted by a huge monolithic door that demands you collect a certain amount of crystals to pass. See you in 500 deaths, fucker. Anyway, once you get enough hearts, we see an awesome opening animation, and we're hyped as hell because we've just spent quite a while to get here. Chapter 8 itself is typical Celeste in that it's very challenging but well designed with unique mechanics and fun exploration. Yeah, who cares, you've heard that 100 times in this video already. What's so awesome about Chapter 8 is the ending. We reach a room with altered physics and a colour palette we haven't seen yet. We see Madeline's thoughts as she makes her way through this magical place, a place with a heart at the centre. Wait a second. A heart surrounded by a difficult level? Almost like a fortress? Guess I was right about my theory earlier. Guess my grade 6 in English Lit is paid off after all. But this subtle reference to a secret from earlier isn't the only thing that makes this good, because we are not done yet. After this we unlock the Chapter 8 B-side, a super hard version of a super hard level that we finally get to the end of, and... Wait, does that say C-side? Yep, there are even harder versions of the levels which are in themselves very hard. Mercifully, each of these is only 3 screens each, but the last screen is always ridiculously long and takes me 20 years to complete. Still, we get the seductive shriek of a crystal heart when we conquer the challenge, and right about now is probably when you're going to collect the secret crystal hearts, which are really well hidden secrets in every main chapter, some of which you have to break the rules of the game to find, and you're going to need all of them to tackle Chapter 8 C-side, which is something you can do if you're insane. But when you finally get to the end of that, it truly does feel conclusive. You get a desperate dash for the finish, one last squawk from the bird, and a moment of serenity with the game thanking you for playing. Oh, that's nice. Oh look, there's a 9th chapter. Well, I'm sure it's just some kind of conclusion. You know, like how the epilogue is just a little cutscene that wraps things up nicely. Wait, it took me almost 6 hours to complete? And thousands of deaths? Oh, shit. Chapter 9 is endless. It's purgatory, it's everlasting fire. Think of the hardest screens from the rest of the game times 3 and put back to back literally 100 times in a row. I adore the level of challenge in this game, and even I think Chapter 9 goes a bit too far. It's basically an entire game on its own. Lord knows you're going to have to dedicate the next forever time in order to complete it. But despite this, I still think it's definitely worth doing, as it provides a great little final story that doesn't have all that much to do with the main game, with it being set much later and in a completely new place, but it rounds things up in a satisfying way, and also provides more reason to enjoy the previous chapters, mainly because unlike in Chapter 9, for the rest of the game you're not screaming at your TV like a baby. We open up back at the summit of the mountain, not long after the end of Chapter 8. The old lady is dead, we miss the funeral, and we're visiting her grave. Refusing to accept the grief that comes with the loss of a loved one, Madeline goes crazy and tries to find a practical way to bring her back. In a way, the insane difficulty of this chapter is reflective of the impossibility of bringing back someone from the dead, as for most of the chapter, Madeline is trying to accomplish just this through vague, abstract means. I have to admit, the theme of loss acceptance was not something I was expecting, but it actually works really well with the story of the first 8 chapters. Madeline has to accept the loss of a loved one in Chapter 9, just like she has to accept the darker side of herself as part of herself in Chapter 6, and how she has to learn that her grand journey is over and accept her day-to-day reality in Chapter 8. Much more important than any of these specific themes is the general theme of acceptance, which Chapter 9 fits in with perfectly. The progression of Madeline's stance is also presented very well through this chapter, with snippets of conversation taking place between the gauntlets of misery, which take her from denial to anger to bargaining to depression to acceptance. I wonder where I've heard that before. The acceptance stage is the most interesting part to me. Throughout the level we are at constant conflict with our counterpart and the bird who we think can bring the old woman back, but near the end we learn that we have to collaborate with them in order to escape this mess, which makes the chapter become just a little bit easier once we learn to reach out for help. Wow, even after dozens of hours, many more deaths, and 3 false endings, Celeste is still managing to represent story through gameplay in incredibly unique and succinct ways, almost as if there's more to a game than infinite content for the content goblins. Then, after a gauntlet of slightly less pain than before, we get a final screen straight from hell.
Oh my, what the fuck? What, bro?
We complete this screen with absolute ease, and then get a climactic rocketing up into the air until we reach the final conversation of the game. Just a simple chat with the old lady that died, who says that even though she's just a vision, saying what you wanted to say to her all this time is still enough. It's sad and maybe doesn't provide full closure, but in real life it's not that simple. People have recursive, cyclical thoughts even after having reason enough to move on, because things don't just pop into place instantly. We don't know right away that Madeline is okay immediately after this interaction, but given time and what she's learned about herself and relationships throughout the story, we know that it might be, which is good enough. So yeah, overall Celeste is a pretty good game, I guess. Even if you are a scoundrel who didn't heed my warning earlier and watched this video without playing Celeste, number one, I forgive you, but also I hope that I have at least convinced you to try it out. I've spoiled a lot in this video, but there's still a lot more left to discover, so just fuck off and do that. Anyway, this video is a bit longer than I originally intended, so I'm just going to close it out with one of my famous quips. Celeste, more like Sebest game. You could even say that it's epic. 100,000,000,000.